Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigoli, and I'm excited to have this guest on the podcast today. I want to welcome to the podcast Eloise Shack. Eloise, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I'm honored to be here, of course. A little nervous, but
I-
that's where we're at.
Hey, that's where we're at. You'll be fine. I'm going to share with everybody your bio. Okay. Eloise Shack is a Georgia based artist drawn to people in moments of complete creative immersion, from musicians on stage and athletes in competition to actors inhabiting an unforgettable character. She often studies a subject beyond a single photograph, exploring their story, interviews, performances, and mannerisms to better understand the person or character she is painting. Her work seeks to capture more than a recognizable face, finding that elusive glimpse of intensity, emotion, and creative flow that reveals something deeper beneath the surface. I love that. That's great. Yeah. And folks, we're going to share later in the conversation some of her artwork. And I think you're really going to be impressed with some of the work that she's created. And there's a few in there that are my favorite. And so I'm excited, to be able to share that. So, Eloise, where does your artist story begin?
Well, I've always been creative, always been drawing, kind of doodling, never really thought much about it. And I spent my early 20s being a young mother, a nurse, bedside nursing in labor and delivery. I just turned 40, the big 40. My 20s and 30s, mostly focusing on family. And I think that I kind of always knew that there was something there, or maybe that I was kind of in the back of my mind knew that I was seeing the world a little different than other people. But,
Right, right.
you know, it's like trying to describe uh, a certain color to someone who's colorblind or something maybe like that. It's hard to really put words to it or even know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I started a new job about 6 years ago at a law firm. So, a much different setting. I needed a
Okay.
change
Yeah.
from bedside nursing. And this
Wow.
was an option for nurses. We could do it, but it brought me into a world of people who instead of everyone just kind of always rushing around to take care of people, you're in a world where people can sit down and actually focus and talk and get to know you in a, office setting, which is, it was wonderful, right? This was right before the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
happy hour, small talk turned into me admitting that I do, some drawings here and there. Someone was like, well, I want to see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, no. But I brought one of my little paintings to work, and um, a few people looked at it and they told me that if I can do that, I have to do that.
Right.
And so, you know, that's right when the pandemic started. And I didn't sign up to be kind of a remote worker by myself a lot, which is this turns out to be kind of a blessing in disguise. But the situation now, I'm at home a lot
Hmm.
alone and just in my thoughts and painting. That started about 6 years ago. It's really, I was left alone with myself long enough to find that. And it's never going to stop now. I mean, it keeps going. Um, I I started out with commissions upon commissions to the point where I've kind of started figuring out what I want to paint, and that was always the toughest thing for me, and still is. It's like, what do I want to paint? What's going to be something you walk in and it's hanging on the wall, and eventually people say, "That's an Eloise." That's
Right.
what we want.
Right. Right.
And I'm so diverse in subject matter because they're mostly all commissions, but it's starting to kind of work its own way out naturally into what I
Hmm.
really want to
Hmm.
do, which
Hmm.
is kind of what you see behind me. It's the musicians, at times athletes, or other artists. And so what I really am wanting to capture with all that is, I mean, that creative flow. Like, you can tell, like, when you go to a show, you can tell when a musician in particular is in the flow, or and it's
Right.
just such a beautiful thing because I get so lost in the flow myself here just at the house painting. Someone could be saying my name or talking to me, and I may not even hear it
Right.
because I'm
Right.
so lost in
You're in
there.
the zone. Yeah. You're in the
Yeah.
zone. Yeah. Going with
And
flow and
so,
in the flow in the zone. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I mean, that's right. And I, you know, kind of always knowing that I have that place I go, not really sure what that was, and now
Hmm.
beginning to realize that not everyone they all everyone has their own thing, but not everyone has that. And so that's just such a beautiful thing to me because I know there's other artists that relate so much to that. And that's what I'm trying to capture. And that's kind of where I got started. It was just really um I don't know if other artists feel this way, but just kind of shy or, apprehensive about sharing that you do paint or draw most of your life, and then kind of being, at a place where it just has to like come out and then it just all gets rolling from there. But for
Yeah.
me, really the past 5 or 6 years is the beginning of that for
Yeah.
me.
Well, I tell you what, it's sometimes it's great to have people in our lives that encourage us to step outside of that comfort zone, and that's kinda what I'm hearing. You had somebody kinda pushed you a little bit, "Oh, I wanna see some of that," and you shared it, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, look at this talent." And it kinda happened with me too, and I've told this story before, how my wife is really the one that got me painting and back into art because I did it decades ago, and just, life and all that kinda stuff, and happens in work, careers, and all that, but she's the one that was behind me getting back into painting, but I'm sure once you started, you probably and maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I think you probably do. You probably look back at some of those early paintings and drawing and says, "Oh my gosh, look at where I'm at today, 6 years later, 6.5 years later," right? So look
Yes,
how
for
far
sure.
you've grown. And, and I may have mentioned this earlier that we're definitely gonna show some of your artwork. And, folks, you can see behind her there some of her artwork, and this is in your house, in your living room slash studio. So your studio now takes over your living room in your house. And I know of one other artist that's like that because when I went to visit him a couple years or so ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I can't remember exactly, but I go over to his house expecting to see maybe a back bedroom or a shop out back or something like that. And I walk in and there's the living room. There's this big, humongous easel and all his paints and everything. It's just right there in the living room. My wife had never put up with that because when I started, I was in the kitchen and a little table in the kitchen. And about 2 months in, she said, I got to have my table back. So, you move around and eventually I'm upstairs in a bonus room. But yeah, it's great to see that growth. And, over time. So you're pretty much self-taught artist?
That's what I would say,
Yeah,
self-taught.
yeah,
And I'm fortunate, and I think most artists will find that other artists are more than happy and willing to share their knowledge, you
right.
know, and that's been the main benefit to me. I mean, being self-taught, I really rely on that.
Mhm.
And most of them are extremely generous in that and helping me. And I feel like have told me things about my work or me that I didn't even know
Right,
because they could see it with more experience and
right.
all. And
Yeah,
I've just been, I just, I have a deep trust for artists. I can be a little bit untrusting of people in general, as we all could be, but
right.
artists, I trust them, I guess, a little bit different because I know their value system deep
Mhm,
down, and
mhm,
I can always
mhm,
know that. And
mhm.
they've always been willing to help me. Anything
Yeah,
I want to know,
that
they've
that's great.
answered.
Yeah. So, where are you located at?
I live in Jackson, Georgia,
Jackson.
so
Right,
I
okay.
kind of tell people it's between Atlanta and Macon because
Yeah,
on the map
yeah,
that's going to make the most sense.
Right.
but it's a small town, closer to Griffin. I do a lot
Okay.
in Griffin because of that. It's a little bit of a larger town near me. And of
Right.
course, then there's Athens too,
Right.
which, a lot of that, my commissions are UGA football related.
Right.
But that's how I kind of, it's slowly growing and I'm not really sure exactly where it's going. I know where I want it to go and
All
it's
right.
not going to be
That's
in my
good.
living room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's good.
but yeah,
That's
I
good.
did. I took over my own living room. Of course, this is just me here, so I don't have to worry about anyone else. But I think one thing, as an artist, I kind of feel and think, and I think this kind of runs common between all of us is I've never done anything just because everyone else does it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the thought of
That's
not
good.
having a
Yeah.
coffee table or a
Right.
couch or
Right.
that, I mean, it was sort of a break out of the norm for a second, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, this is a bunch of space that really could be used like however I want it. This is my
Right.
house.
Right.
And so I did that and there's really no other way right now for me as kind of developing into where I'm headed. But
Yeah.
one day I plan to have like an art studio, maybe in a small downtown
Okay.
area
Okay.
with a
Yeah.
maybe a live-in loft over top.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of my manifestation dream.
Okay.
But this is very practical for right now, and I'm totally comfortable with like a 5-year plan and knowing where I'm at and not feeling discouraged about that. Of course, there's paint all over the floor. And I mean, at some point, you start spending so much time trying to scrub it up at the end of it. And I mean, I don't want to break flow to try to clean paint up off the floor, but I put down this rug, it catches most of it. It's just you got to kind of embrace some of the mess that comes with it too.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And it can be messy. Now, are you your medium acrylic? Is that what you paint with?
I
Acrylic or are
would
you
say oil and acrylic,
oil and acrylic? Okay. Okay.
and I find myself shifting between the two for months
Okay.
at a time, and I can't really explain. I mean, there's always something that makes me be like, I'm ready to go back to this one, that one, and then that'll go on for months. Right now, I'm kind of in an acrylic phase.
Okay.
Also, like if I do live paintings, which is something I've kind of fallen into and love to do, I've
Mhm.
found that acrylic is much better in that moment. I started out with oil and maybe I was just doing a little too much with that. Acrylic is much more, I mean, I would say forgiving. Some people will say oil is more forgiving. I mean, different thoughts there, but those live paintings, acrylic is definitely, I would say, better for you're going to get, you apply layers quicker and,
Yeah.
you're on a
Yeah.
timed thing. So,
Right. So what kind of live paintings do you do? Do you
well, I
weddings or
started,
events and things of that
mhm.
nature? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I started with like some weddings, which is, that's something kind of new everyone's doing. And um, it was a challenge. I mean, it's kind of intimidating to get out there and, you know, potentially fail or mess up in front of everybody. But
Right.
I
Right.
mean, with
That's a lot of
art,
pressure. Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
But
A lot of pressure.
I love pressure. Like I don't know why. I
Okay.
just kind of
Okay.
lean into it. But and it usually
It's
the
good.
paintings turn out better if there's pressure for some
Okay.
reason. But you're out there, you've got a couple of hours. So you got weddings, I've got charity events I do. A lot of those I'm doing as a true donation,
Mhm.
but I meet so many people and if I can remember to bring my business cards, I'll set them out. A lot of
Right.
times I
Right.
forget, but
Right.
um, I will say having business cards has never held back a potential collector. If they want to find you, they'll find you.
They
Like,
will. That's right.
so,
That's a good point. Yeah.
and I kind of don't like, having the cards out there because I don't know why. Maybe it's just, it feels weird. I don't want to feel like I'm out there trying to sell something. It really is about the art. So keeping it kind of just about that. There are collectors that also appreciate that, I think, that
Mhm,
you're not out
mhm.
there just to try to promote yourself or something like
Right,
that can be a
right,
little strange when it's a charity thing.
right,
And then the wedding thing, I'm focused on those people in that moment. But that is so much fun, and, I mean, people will come up to you and talk to you the whole time you're painting, and, um, especially here in the South, it's considered kinda rude if you don't look at someone when they're talking. So
right,
that's a hurdle I had to overcome. So, like, if people come up to me and talk, I will, you know, kind of steadily keep looking at the painting to kind of set that little precedent with them and, lean in, I'm listening. And I'll try to, answer with little things right off the bat to let them know I am listening. And I might even say to them, like, I'm just so you know, I'm going to continue working, but I am listening,
right, right. That's
kind of
good.
have to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
say that a lot during those live paintings to people.
Right, right,
But it's a lot of fun. It opens up a lot of doors, and it's just I mean, if you think about ways you could spend your Friday or Saturday night, I would so much rather be doing that than a lot of things. I mean, it's
right,
really a benefit to everybody.
right, right. Yeah, and make a little money on the side too, when you
Yeah,
get
it does
asked
help.
to do a wedding or something like that, or commission, "Hey, come paint at this event," and that kinda thing. I've considered that down the road possibly, but I don't know. I'm just not comfortable yet of, "Ooh, I messed that up, and how do I start over right in the middle, of the painting?" And so, I guess that's one of the things you have to kinda overcome, but, I know some artists that do it, they'll get the painting to a certain point and then take it back to the studio and refine it, because, gosh, you could spend hours and hours, on a painting, but, I think it's cool to do a live event like that, and it's great for exposure, like you said.
It is.
Maybe just having the business cards, and that's a tip, for people. And we talked a little bit about this earlier about, certain tips that you could share. And I think that's a tip is have the business cards, but don't necessarily have them out where they're, oh, here's my business card. If a lot of people may ask, do you have one? Yeah, I've got one. It's in my billfold or it's in my pocketbook
Mhm.
or it's in the bag. Here you go. Here's my
And that
contact
does
information.
happen.
Yeah. So you've got them available because if somebody is really interested, they're gonna ask for the information,
Yes, they
so,
will.
yeah,
Or I mean,
yeah.
even having just a little sticky QR code that takes them to your social media. I've done
That's
that, which
that's a
is
that's a good point too. Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
with the times. I mean,
yeah,
most people don't really they might even not even care about a business card. They're like link up on the phone and then, they have the information.
yeah,
But I would say for anyone who is thinking about doing a live painting event, do a couple of them. This will be just between you and the person, but for free, really, because when the pressure to do something because someone paid for it, that's gonna really kinda mess you up in your head, I think. And if you're doing it
right,
from the heart and if it's especially if it's like someone's wedding that they weren't necessarily going to have a live painter, so you're not taking up the place of someone who would have done a better job, you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Then that's how to get started,
Okay,
like
and
a
maybe
friend or a family.
yeah, I was gonna say, maybe there's a activity going on at your home or their home and say, "Hey, can I come and paint just for practice?" That puts you in the environment of the social gathering of people and what's going on around you. There's a lot of distractions and things like that, and practicing and practicing, I think will help with that. So that's a great tip as well. One of the things that I recently got was the dot card, the little metal card, because I have business cards as well, and I don't always carry them with me, but I've got that in my billfold now, so somebody I could just tap it on somebody's phone, and they've got my contact information. So
Yeah.
I learned about that from another artist, Jay Fawkes, who I interviewed last week, and, I met him a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "You got a business card?" And he pulled that card out, tapped my phone, and there's his contact information. I said, "I gotta get me one of those." So I got one.
I
So
need
yeah,
to.
yeah. So it
Yeah,
worked
that's
out
a good
pretty
one.
good, so that way I've got it in my billfold. It's about the size of a debit credit card. And I don't have to carry around a bunch of uh, business cards. Um, So it works out pretty good. And it's got all kinds of other information in there too. You can add like Facebook, Instagram, social media stuff, all that if you want to, which is
I
pretty
think that's a
cool.
really good
Yeah,
idea, and I need
pretty
to get
cool.
on board with that.
Yeah. So we just learn, and that's part of the beauty of doing this. See, I've learned some stuff from you, you've learned stuff from me. So you are you still working? Have a day job, or is that
That's what I
still
say. I use
okay?
those words. I'll tell people, I still have the day job,
Okay.
and I'm kind of at that point a lot of people come to where it's, you're on the fence of like, do I hold on to that safety net of that day job, or do I take that away so I have the pressure to have to do this? Cuz
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
really on that fence right now cuz I
Yeah.
mean, I know I could, but also I'm a single parent. I have, it's a little different when
It
it's not
is. Yeah.
just
That's
if
you.
it yeah, if it were just
Mhm.
me, I would
Mhm.
take that plunge and
Right.
I would feel okay, but it does, have to be a little more cautious, a little more planned out with it. But the day job is still there and it does take away from this, like for sure. And
Right.
it does eventually have to go. It's just when. And my workplace is very aware of what I do. They're very supportive, and it's just you couldn't ask for a better situation. So, these
Great.
things when they're right, it's right. It'll flow, and I believe that.
And you'll know when the timing's right to make that step or plunge or whatever, want to call it and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm doing this." And so you've got everything lined up, you got the what I'll call the income streams, whether it's commission work, doing prints and live events and things like that, and you kind of know that, hey, there's certain okay, that's because I've talked to different artists and I follow different artists, and there's one that I follow, and she's got 7, 8, or 9 different little income streams. She does live paintings, live events for weddings. She does commissions. She does prints. I bought a calendar from her a couple of years, and so, all kinds of things. But it's all these little revenue streams. It's not just one, and that's something that I'm trying to do too. Is like, yeah, you could sell a painting, and I'm just throwing out a dollar amount for 3 or 4 or $500, right? Okay, that's kind of the one and done. But if I do prints of that, and I'm getting a lot of sales from just prints, I still have the original artwork. So if I sell 200, prints at, $10 a piece, it adds up, over time. So,
Right.
yeah, that's something that as artists we have to explore too, and try to get those print on demand companies lined up and everything. Because it's tough as an artist to do it yourself and do all this printing, because looking behind you at your studio there in your living room, and you sent me a video, but I didn't include it today. But you sent a video, and maybe we'll talk about that later. But of different easels that were set up in the living room, and how you were going around and adding certain colors to each one, and uh, after a while, our spaces get crowded because we're cranking out work and we got all kinds of materials and supplies. But then to also think about producing a bunch of prints and promoting those can where am I going to put it all? Yeah, that's something you have to think
Right.
about too. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So that's kind of one of my next steps in my mind lined up is I'm probably going to be making a slightly big purchase with buying a printer
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have ordered prints from I've used Stackhouse. I mean, you can't get a more beautiful print, but it's expensive.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm actually not getting a lot at the end of all that. It's a
Right.
lot of work.
Exactly. Yeah,
But if I
yeah.
can get to a point where I'm starting to print some of them myself, of course, that's going to be an investment, that printer.
That's true. That's true.
And I want to do matting and all that too. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
that's one of my next moves I'm going to do for myself. And it's probably a little slow going as far as, I mean, if I didn't have so many other little distractions, this probably would have already happened. But it's just taking it at my own pace.
Well, sometimes you have to do that, and go with the flow. It'll happen when it's the timing's right. But you sound like you've got a plan. You know, you've got goals. You know certain things that you want to accomplish, and the road getting there may go a little bit like this instead of a straight linear line, but you'll get there. You're still going in that direction. It might take a little bit longer, but you know that's where you want to go down the road, which is great. And that's something as artists, you know, I try to do that too. Is like, okay, what's my next step? What's my goals here? What is it I need to accomplish this year or next year, kind of thing. So yeah, that's good. Sounds like you're a very goal oriented, organized kind of artist, which is good.
Yes,
Probably
I think
past
being
lives of being a nurse and, you know,
right, the
working for a law
nursing.
firm and all that kind of plays into that, you know. So yeah, that's good.
I've heard someone tell me that, one of the toughest things about hiring an artist for anything, and this is coming from the um, I'm not gonna say creative, because these people are highly creative business people, but there's certain kind of creativity. But,
Hmm.
when it comes to someone like that hiring an artist for either like a live event painting or just to show up and do something. I mean, I've done a mural before, that kind of thing. Their biggest hesitancy with it is they said it's like herding cats because, as we are, creative, we are not always going to some people don't take showing up on time as seriously as others, and that can create problems. But
Right.
I guess having like my background most of my life at this point being spent in the hospital as a nurse, and it kind of has beat a lot of that out of me. Like it was almost it's very military like at the
Hmm.
hospital
Hmm.
as a nurse.
Hmm.
It's a very tough environment, and if I hadn't had that, I would be such a different person than I am. But, it's fast paced, and I'm more of a deep thinker, slow and methodical. So it kind of beat that out of me. Like I'm forced to have to think quicker and think,
Right.
uh,
Right.
like you're saying, like, where am I? Where do I need to get, and how can I get there quick as possible? Like, for survival and that. But
Right.
I think that was ended up being a good thing. So I wish that I had gone to like Savannah Art and College Design, probably.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's really tough when you're coming from a family where there's no artists, and I mean, it's tough to know early on what you really wanna do. You have to
Oh,
kinda find out.
I'm still trying to figure that out, and I'm
I
retired.
am too. I mean,
You know, it's
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, if I had just known earlier on, and I guess the only way people can know that is if they have family that's also artists and they're seeing, they
So,
can tell, they might push you into that, but I don't really think anybody was looking at things that way, and so I went into a very practical field as a nurse. But I don't I feel like I'm where I should be. There's just certain things I had to learn from that I'm bringing into this, I
right,
guess.
right,
So,
yeah. Yeah, made me think about you're right. I've talked to a lot of people that are artists that had family members that inspired them and encouraged them at a young age, but not everybody's like that. Majority of people are not like that, and you might take art in school, in high school or whatever, but it was always drilled in me, you gotta get a job to support yourself, think of, you know, about the future, if you have kids and insurance and all that, you know, all that kind of fun stuff, uh, as part of being an adult and working and everything, but you still kinda have that nagging or something about, "Hey, I really wanna try to do some art stuff." That I think sometimes we just don't get that encouragement to say, "Yes, you can be an artist. You can make it as an artist." Okay? And I think one of the things, not to knock some of the art schools that are out there, but one of the things that I've learned in talking to different artists and also seeing other artists on YouTube and whatever, when they went to art school, they didn't talk about the business side. It's like, here's the medium paint, that kind of thing, how to use brushes, how to create, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, go forth. You're now graduated. It's like, well, okay, what do I do next? How do I get into a gallery? Do I need to get in a gallery? Maybe 30 years ago you had to be in a gallery, but now with the internet, you can sell stuff online, Facebook, Instagram, your website, and just getting out to the community. So, not to knock galleries or anything, but you don't to be successful, you don't have to be in galleries, is the bottom line. I guess that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Yeah.
I do think
So,
it's evolving in ways that we don't even quite know yet, but in that
yeah,
direction of what you're saying,
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
So, I think one of the tips or keys takeaway is for people is to be flexible and be ready for what comes up next, down the road, and be able to pivot or adapt to it. Because how long has Facebook been around? How long has Instagram been around? What's next that's out there that might be beneficial to artists and creatives to promote themselves? And, so what's next? But we could have a long discussion about AI, but we're not going to go into that today. But and
Right.
AI
And that
art, but
is,
yeah, and that's a challenge, for artists too. So
it's a
yeah,
tool if you
yeah.
can harness it right.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's a very good point. Very good point. So, what do you find the most challenging? Like, let's say, all right, yeah. What do you find the most challenging about being an artist and what you do?
My challenges can be, I feel like this can be very relatable. It's very real, very frustrating. But when I'm here at the house and I have my youngest is 7.
Okay.
So, they can be they have a lot of needs, and I am fortunate that I have my children on a schedule,
Hmm.
and it does allow me to have free time also to take care of them. But when they are here, there's days I wake up and I know I'm creative this day. I don't know why, but I am. And so it's almost, I mean, the frustration is that, in the evenings, that's usually kind of when I'm waking up for that. And I want to paint so bad, but every time I kind of get started, there's a need or something. And I have to break out of that flow, which can be almost just painful. Like
Right.
to enter that flow and then to be ripped out of it because you have to divert your attention to somewhere else. It it's to the point where sometimes I'm unwilling to allow myself to go there because I can't be ripped out and I don't want to be.
Right.
And so it does, there's days that I feel super creative and I have to just accept that that's just not going to happen that day. And that would be my biggest challenge. And I mean, I say that not to sound negative. I say it so that any single parent knows that you're not alone in that. Like that is so real and you know, I'm sure there's ways to do that better, but I think it's just going to take time. As they get older, they become more independent.
Right. Right.
And I'm constantly in productive ways training and teaching my children to do things for themselves. Like that's the one of the main things because the more they can just come downstairs and fix themselves something to eat, for example.
Right. Right.
And I am not um, I don't hold back with letting them know I'm painting. Do not talk to me right now
Right.
unless it's an emergency. And I'm very
Right.
firm with that because I let them know this is not just a hobby. This is something I'm doing
Right.
for us.
Right. Right.
And they have learned, they'll walk downstairs and they'll see that I'm listening to my music. Having the headphones on helps because they can see I'm unavailable. And I mean, that can be something or earbuds or just something. If it's just quiet, they might, ask me a question just naturally. They don't mean anything by it but I do kind of have to stop and because I go so deep into where I'm at and that's just my challenge is being going there and being ripped out of it and back and forth and then to the point where I just put my brushes down and just given to the atmosphere,
Right. Right.
um, but it is a little different. Like the live paintings, the people coming up and talking to me, for some reason that's not the same. Like
No, no, yeah, yeah, I can see that.
it's it's
Mhm.
being here at my house. These are my children. They need me. That's a whole different feeling. But
Right.
that is something that I think most single parents or just any parent of young children as an artist can relate to. And I guess my thing with that is I just don't hear a lot of people. I'm not, and I promise I'm not complaining, but it's just such a real thing and it needs to be said because it's relatable and it's okay. That's what I want to
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
it's normal and that happens. So I
Right.
guess with saying that, I would want any other artist to feel less frustrated when it does happen, just to it be accepting that that's just part of life right now.
That's right. That's a very good point. It's all part of life, and I appreciate what you said about, yeah, sometimes you have to say, "It's just not gonna happen today," or, there's too much, I hate to use the word distractions, or maybe interruptions, but is a better word, that, yeah, tomorrow would be a better day, maybe, we'll get up. And
Yeah,
and one thing I like too, what you said, and I experience this sometimes too, is I try to do something every day in the studio, and I may have 4 or 5 different paintings going on at one time because I'm an oil painter, and so, as you know, working with oils, I gotta let this layer dry before I start something else, and so, and then I'll have different projects going on at the same time, but, uh some days it's like, I'm just not feeling it, you know?
right.
And I
I
wake
totally
up
get
and
that.
I'm just not feeling it. And I hear, and it's almost like, I know the Van Gogh quote of, "If you hear a voice that says don't paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will go away," right? Well, that's easier said than done sometimes, because
Yeah,
there there's life and interruptions, and it may be a family member, or, a neighbor or something needs something, and it's like, "Hey, I had planned to do that this morning, but then, my morning shot because I had to do something else." But that's okay. It's not the end of the world, and we'll get back in the studio, and then we'll be surprised that I think we'll make up for it because we'll get in that flow. And you're probably one, and this is the way I am sometimes. Time just goes by and it's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so many hours later, and I didn't realize how late it was and how long I'd been painting," you
right.
know?
So there's a lot of times it'll be 3 a.m. and I go to bed pretty early every night. I love my sleep and I like to have a good routine, but it'll be 3 a.m. and I'm so wired but tired, and I might have gotten started at 5 p.m. earlier,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
and it just goes by, it feels like maybe a couple of hours, but
yeah,
it doesn't feel
yeah,
like that long of a time, and that's how
yeah,
you know. I would say that's one indicator you're in the flow,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
feels so good that I guess, so I tend to not paint if I don't want to, like
Okay.
you're saying,
Mhm.
because I know how good it feels to paint when I want to, that it's not even worth it, and I can
Right,
tell when I'm
right.
not,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I might go out, especially on the weekends, and try to hear some live music or something,
Mhm, mhm.
because that other type of creativity flow in, it nourishes, like, it replenishes mine, like, because it's a
Yeah.
different
Yes,
form,
that's so true. Mhm,
and that
mhm.
helps a lot, to
Yeah.
give yourself just to step away and be just forgive yourself, I guess you could say, for not being able to do it that day and looking
Thank you for
forward
saying that. Yeah, and I think that's key too, is, we need to be forgiving and say, "It's okay." You didn't get done what you wanted to today, but it's okay. Don't be so bad or critical on yourself, and or hard. That's what I'm looking for. Don't be so hard on yourself because you didn't reach that goal for the day or whatever. And you have to be careful too not to get burnt out. You know what I'm saying? Because let's say you did you worked all day, you got started painting at 5 o'clock. Next thing you know, it was 3 o'clock, and you get up at 6 and you're going again. And next thing you know, I mean, you can't do that very long before you just kind of burn yourself. You get exhausted, and then that does things to you physically, mentally, emotionally, and everything. So it's a drain. So you have to kind of pace yourself and know when to say,
Right.
"Hey, I need a break. I need to go listen to some live music," because of that. Music and art and things like that stimulate certain aspects of our brain that can trigger creativity in ourselves. So yeah, I like that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, outside stimulation is extremely important
Just
for
seeing
me.
nature, going out in nature, doing a hike, doing a walk, doing something, getting
Yeah, it's
out.
like
Yeah.
whatever fuel feeds your soul,
Yeah.
is of very high value, and it's not to be seen as you're just taking leisure time, and it's very important.
Yeah. Now you do live events, but you also do some plein air. Is that correct?
I have. So
Yeah.
I a couple years ago, I participated in the Olmsted Plein Air down in Savannah, and so I drove down there by myself. And it lasted for I think 4 or 5 days.
Mhm.
They house the artists, so the they kind of provide housing if you want it. A lot of people just got their own place, but
Right.
I was like, okay, sure. Like, let's see what this is all about. So, one of the collectors that loves Olmsted, they opened up their home to me. I stayed there the whole time, and you're released kind of out into the city to just you have to come up with it. They do have a few things that they let you know ahead of time. There's a few awards that's going to be presented. So one
Okay.
for architecture or one for the best use of light, so you're kind of have that in mind. And um, plein air, when you're in a new city surrounded by all these kind of big to do artists, very very skilled beyond me. But I mean, I guess there was just part of me that knew that even though mine weren't probably not going to be as good as theirs, I know that. I thought it's okay. Like they
Right.
know
Right.
that
Right.
I'm just starting, but I'm doing this. And it was tough to kind of drive around Savannah, find somewhere to park, knowing that I had a huge book bag of stuff and an easel I was going to be carrying. I didn't want to be walking forever and wear myself out. Finding, that right parking spot, also just what in the world to paint. And I would say and I still do some of this, it's not going to end up being my focal point. I love to do it, but I would say for anyone that wants to do plein air, like instead of trying to look around and find the best structure or whatever to paint, what's going to be like the most amazing painting, focus on that little tiny detail that makes you love what you're seeing in front of you, and like really zoom in on that. Like the I think one of the ones I did that ended up selling, compared to the others, was just the corner of a building. It was just the corner, like, and I did one of like this whole house, the Kessler House. It's a famous house on the Forsyth Park down there. It was a big painting of that house. It was pretty, but there's just something really special about really focusing on a really small detail of something that's really big and making that actually what it's about. Because I know it's easy probably for us to see that, but we have to remember that not everyone can see that.
Right.
So
Right.
we have to be the window to show that to them.
Right.
And I don't know, it's so part of my everyday life when I'm driving down the road and pastures and cows and stuff I'm seeing. I see the beauty in that, and I'm always thinking, man, I would love to just be able to sit out there and paint that right now. But obviously that's not going to happen. So I have to go to the grocery store, and plus I don't even know who owns that property and all this stuff.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's always like
Yeah.
I just try to identify what is it really though about what I'm seeing that I think is so beautiful, and how could I zoom in on that tiny thing and make it big. So that's a good starting place, I would say. But that's plein air is its own world, and
It
it's
is. Yeah.
there's people in there that they all know each other. They're friends,
Right.
lifelong friends, and that's a wonderful thing because it's really hard to paint around people who are non-painters. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get bored really fast, and you're gonna be 15, 30 minutes into your painting and just getting going, and you can see them over there being restless, like, "When are we gonna go get something to eat?" Or, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So it's important. I mean, I need to do more of this, but, I'm a little bit limited in my time right now, but in the future, this is something I reserve for later in life. But I will look forward to painting around other painters. It has to be that way
Mm-hmm.
because,
Mm-hmm.
most people are just not going to get it. They're not going to have patience for it. I mean, I've kind of stopped taking my paint with me on vacations now. I did it for a little while and
Right.
I would make a point, be like, okay, in between brunch and lunch. I think I'd like to sit out here if it's nice, not too hot, and I'm gonna do a little painting. But I just kind of started realizing this it really isn't fun for everyone else. Like
Yeah.
this is something that
That's a
has to
good
be.
point. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I have to do that too. I have done plein air painting. I've taken workshops and everything, and I have gotten out, and that's one of the things I set on my calendar here recently to maybe on Thursday mornings go out and do plein air painting. But I did it about 3 weeks ago, and I enjoyed it, but it was so hot. Even at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's like, man, time to go get that second shower or whatever, for the day because it was so hot. But I'm hoping that this fall I can get out. But the point that you made, and I learned this from Beth Smith, who has Cornerstone Academy of Art and Design in Macon, CAD, and she participated in and did some plein air painting at Saint oh no Christ Episcopal Church in downtown Macon. During Cherry Blossom Festival, they did a little pop up art show and sale, and I sold a piece there. But I did come out that Saturday and do some plein air painting, and Beth was there, and she had her easel all set up, and you had cherry trees, you had the church, and all this kind of stuff. And I was trying to do this nice big scene, and what she did is she just focused in on a few cherry blossoms, did like a little 8 by 10, and had a few cherry blossoms on it and a few branches, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, just find something small like that, focus in on it, like you were saying, paint that. It doesn't have to be this elaborate scene or anything because especially doing plein air, the bigger it is, the longer it's gonna take, you know? And you
Right.
and
Yeah.
and you're chasing the lighting, you're chasing everything, and especially if your people are in the scene and those people aren't there anymore. So do I snap a picture and have it, for future reference? Let me put that person in there that I captured, that kind of thing. But you're right, plein air painting is a whole different world, whole different animal. I want to do it more, and that's one of the things but I enjoy being around other painters, and that's kinda key too, and I appreciate you sharing that. It's just you learn from other painters, and, they learn from you no matter what level you're at. You can always learn something from somebody else. But, yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
It's a little more comforting. I feel like for me to be out, if I imagine just, I mean, I could go right now there today and sit on the square of Jackson and paint. And I have done that before, but I mean, just it's a little more comforting really just to be around other people doing it. Cause then when people see it, I mean, cause this isn't really a big art town. It's a
Mhm.
little much, I feel, and I get kind of social anxiety or whatever. Like someone walk up, they see me set with the easel. It's a big scene,
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to
Mhm.
make a big scene. I tend to do wanna paint structures when I do plein air, so that does put me around other people rocking around, and I'm not doing it to try to be like, "Oh, look at me," and all this, but if there are other people set up, then everybody can automatically see what's going on,
Right,
and it's
right.
like, it helps take the
Yeah,
pressure off, or I don't
it
know, it's
does, it
just.
does. Yeah, it does. Well, I would like to bring in some of your artwork so we can talk a little bit about those
Yeah, I would love
pieces,
to.
okay? Is there
So,
anything you would like to show that you have there in the studio before I bring the slides up?
I will bring up, this one right here because I'm working on it. but I feel like it kind of represents, and I don't know if you could see it. Let me move my table all the way just a little bit. But this is a painting of Kurt Cobain, which he's one of my favorites. I um, I would say this painting is done mostly where his face is. And I'm going to be adding, so we got some of this dark in here. Going to be adding some dark in here. It'll be done. But
Okay.
the reason I like it is because I will look at, you know, some album covers. I'll review like footage of them on stage, interviews. I do like a little bit of the darker, tortured soul, you could say, with these, but this is also music I grew up listening to, so I feel close
Right.
with it.
Right. Yeah.
But he, um, I tend to look for painting them without their eyes open for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, I wanted to capture him. Like, so I'm taking like all of the interviews I saw and footage, mannerisms, and I'm trying to put you in front of him in a way that you've never been in front of him before. Unique, like not just a copy of the photo or something.
Right. Right.
Collectively, who is he? And in every one of my paintings, there's always at the end of it, and I usually know right when it has happened, a favorite brushstroke that I did that I know I'm like, that was the one. And it's usually
Yeah.
something you would never guess. But for this one, it was just this part, this the upper lip. It's just so much part of his personality and
Mm-hmm.
who it. So I liked that. And I wanted to just really capture his mood. And when I go listen to live shows, which is I've mentioned is one of my favorite things to do, there's two different parts of it that I love. I love the warm up period. So if you can get
Mm-hmm.
there early and you can
Mm-hmm.
hear the musicians, which I'm not musical, so I greatly appreciate their work, their art, because I can't do it. Just like some people probably appreciate my paintings.
Right. Right.
So it's it's outside of myself, but I admire it so much. But I watch the warm up period, and then there's always that point in the show, and it might happen early on, maybe in the middle, where the artist gets in the flow. And
Mm-hmm.
I can tell usually when it has happened. I look for it, and I want these of them performing to be that moment where that they entered that flow, and I get that from watching old footage of it. And so you have that type, but then I have this over here. This is Freddie Mercury. And so I, with him, I wanted to capture him as an individual, not necessarily as a performing musician.
Right.
So I admire the artist. I appreciate the internal struggles. It can be seen, I guess, sometimes by other people if you let them into that world, which I'm very hesitant to do anymore because you either get it or you don't. But it's like a depth that you can feel other people's emotions very much, and it can be a little overwhelming just in my day to day life. But I feel like, that these artists that I paint, I feel like they have that, like they could feel that too. It probably makes
Right.
them good songwriters. But like with this one, I wanted to capture his almost suffering because he was such a beautiful artist, but he, in his own personal life, went through so much.
Right.
And I love this painting because I feel like he would like it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to paint him the way he would want to be seen,
Right.
which is this kind of extravagant, royal, but also you could feel there's a sadness in him. it was always there, but that's what made him a wonderful artist, I believe
Right,
that.
right. Yeah.
And so that, and
I think you captured it quite well there. Yeah, it's
it's
a
one of
beautiful
my
piece. Yeah.
favorites. And this one will probably end up under my bed for years and years, and one day maybe
Yeah.
it'll come back out, but it's so so then there's this type, which is very fun. It's almost like
Right.
you could say pop art like, but
Yeah.
so like with this one, I wanted to condense the images of these guys down. And there's this saying I think we've all heard, but it says, I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one instead. So, like taking all the detail out of their faces, I don't know if you can really see it, is what I'm trying to do with that. Like
Gotcha. Gotcha.
condense them down into a very figurative, I would call it,
Right.
form. But also, I feel like some of these less details are more aesthetically pleasing to me, anyways. To
Uh-huh.
have like
Uh-huh.
a simpler image to me is something I would rather have on my wall personally. So I like to keep it um, fun. I think a lot of these, like this, would end up more in like someone's game room
Yeah.
or
Yeah. That's a
man cave.
man cave. Yeah. Yeah. Most
So
definitely. Yeah.
in the
Most definitely.
future, I'm going to be working on doing them a little less bright, a little more poetic, same subjects, kind of. But
Yeah.
so this is one I'm really proud of that I'm going to hold on to. But this is Guns N' Roses. And so you've got their faces, but I'm trying to capture their personality, but also in an aesthetically pleasing manner,
Yeah.
which is
Gotcha.
very important to me.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of these are the things I'm zeroing in on and focusing on. Also, the the athlete is extremely similar to, and you've seen some of my UGA paintings.
Yeah. I'll show some in a minute here so folks can see those. Yeah.
Yeah, so my favorite
One of
one,
my favorite actors right here coming up.
oh yeah, so this is Clint Eastwood. So part of this is the actor himself, and then a lot of it is the character he's portraying, that is their art. So there's always just been something about Clint Eastwood to me that I like, and I have to sit and think about it a while to be like, what is it that I like about him? And I just, I still can't put words to it, but I can paint
Uh-huh.
it. So
Okay.
this is it. So I like the larger size canvas. I feel
Right.
like
Right.
it makes a big impression on the wall. It's definitely all of my stuff are statement pieces to make a big impression.
Yeah.
But the my favorite painting, I sent you a picture of it, was of Stetson Bennett.
Yep. I've got
This
that on the slide
Yes.
deck we'll show in a minute here.
And so very much just like the musicians, these athletes enter the flow too. And I mean, I'm not going to say I can call a game, but there's been a lot of times where I've looked, if I get to know the quarterback pretty good, I can see in his eyes if he's in the flow or not. And
Right.
it's
Right.
like we usually win those games. So
Yeah. 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 That's
plus it's
good.
just fun.
Yeah.
It kind of connects me with a world of fun, people that is not necessarily art, because you know, I can't just do that. And I love to like
Right.
participate in like the party of football, food and drinks and all of that. It's
Yeah,
fun.
we love the tailgate atmosphere of football. Go Dogs. Can't wait till the
Yeah.
5th of September. Yeah.
But that Stetson Bennett painting, and you have a picture of that
I
for the
do.
reason
I'm going to go
it's
ahead and bring that one up, folks. So
okay.
we're going to slide through here and there we go. All
So
right.
I got kind of I do a lot of commissions that are, is my microphone still working? Well,
Yeah. Let's go.
they end up being UGA, and so that's how I ended up down this path. So I do a lot of the bulldog itself, and then I get asked to do the players and studying their faces and learning them. That's how I ended up realizing this thing about the flow with them too. And I've been fortunate to meet a lot of them, and they are different. They're
Mm-hmm.
unique, creative people. But
Mm-hmm.
this one of Stetson, this was early in his career, and I just am describing this so it is, my thought process here with this. So this was actually a game that he lost. This was early on, and the look in his eye there told me, and I know he was thinking like, I will never let that happen again. And he didn't. And he went on to win almost every single other game they played after that.
Right. Right.
So that was a look of that was after a failure, and
Right.
that's just something that we can all really relate to, and I that's why I love that painting.
Yeah.
It's that look of, "Okay,
Determination
but
on that
that's never
face.
gonna happen
You know.
again."
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what I
Captured it
love
quite.
about that.
Yeah. I don't know what's next after this one. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this one
So
here.
that's
Go ahead.
Tombstone,
Yeah.
and so I grew up watching that movie, I love it, and, I mean, of course, I had to try to paint them, and so that's kind of, the actor is an artist, and that's where I'm trying to create that. I'm not capturing the actor there as much as the character, but
Right.
I feel like that's they were portraying, and I was trying to catch what they were doing there, and I like that.
Yeah. It's good. All right. We're going to back up here. We're just going to go in reverse order. So here's some more. You talked about the one on the right there earlier,
Yeah, and
but
so the other
I
one
do
is
recognize.
Johnny,
Yeah,
Johnny
Johnny
Cash,
Cash.
and that one's hanging up right now at Nick McKay's. It's a pub in Griffin, and they've been very supportive. They hang my artwork, and it's just fun to go in there and get to see my stuff. But that one is there, and I mean, it's not really advertised as for sale. But certainly someone could contact me if they wanted to. But that was someone asked me to do a commission of Johnny, and I ended up doing that one and another one, and they chose the other one. That's their choice. I This was my favorite of
Oh,
him,
okay. How
but
about that?
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So to each their own, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just happy that they chose me to paint him. But he's a character, I guess, kind of I like. I he likes to be different, and he was kind of dark, and I like that, you know. And
Yeah, that's an interesting piece. Yeah, there. These are some more.
yeah, Stevie Nicks, and then you've got the Doors.
Mm-hmm.
He the cover of a magazine said he's hot, he's single, and he's dead, and
Okay.
that was on the Rolling Stone magazine. But I just I that painting is hanging in a friend's house, and every time I go over there and I see it, it looks like he's looking at you.
Yeah, yeah. Those eyes are piercing, when you
Yes, and I'll say this: that painting, that I did it in probably an hour. So back talking about taking time in painting when you feel creative.
Mhm.
Um, my best paintings have been done extremely fast, like, because 'cause you're in that flow, so
Right.
I guess I can kinda, in that way, give myself a little bit of slack when on the days I'm not feeling it, or else I'll end up overworking a painting, and that's
Yeah,
not good.
yeah. That's right. That's right. Have to be careful there. You definitely don't wanna do that. Where was this
That's
at?
that was it's called The Camp. It's up in Atlanta. It's a kind of a newish, kinda live, work, eat, and play area, and they asked me to do this live painting, and they had a DJ there, and the idea was for me to feel the music that they were playing and paint based off that, no script for what I was going to do.
Wow.
And so I really leaned into that and did it. And so that painting was that's what came of that. And it was just a very abstract piece, but a lot of fun. And I was on a stage actually next to the DJ, which was a little different because I'm usually kind of tucked away on the sidelines or something. But being up on the stage,
Can't
that
hide.
it was it was
Yeah.
kind of scary,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
But I got into it, and eventually my mind was focused on the artwork and the
Good.
feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's
that was
great.
fun, and I certainly I love that, and you don't get a lot of opportunities like that, so
Yeah. For real. That's so true. Yeah. True.
and those are like, my live event paintings, so I think the one on the left there was a wedding I was doing, and the one on the right was um, up in it's in Atlanta. They had like a, um, chamber of commerce big thing. There was a lot of political people there, and that was fun, and, I got to meet a lot of people through that, but I think the main thing with the live paintings, like I was saying, is, like, they're looking not necessarily for someone who is the most skilled painter, but just someone they know will show up
Right. Right.
and,
Yeah.
be professional and be on time and know how to, price things right, and
Right.
they don't have to worry. They they book you, and then you're not asking them a bunch of questions. I would say that's the main thing. Like, if you can, when you're handling these business transactions, you can say, like, really just know how to fill in the blanks without coming at them with a bunch of questions because they just want to check a box. Like, we got the live painter, we're good. And if you
Right.
can
Right.
be that, you'll probably get more of those.
Right. Right. It's good.
So on the left, I was on Sea Island. I donated some paintings to a charity, and they're featured, and these things get auctioned off live, and it's um it's a donation on my part. Sometimes I'll ask a few hundred for supplies and travel, but it gets me out of the house. I get to go to a party. I get to meet a bunch of other artists and other people donating things. I mean, there's really what's not to like about it.
Right. Right. It's a win-win, all the
Yeah.
way around. Mm-hmm.
And so I've gotten pretty far with donating. I do a lot of things for free and give a lot of paintings away, but it certainly has never held me back. If anything, pushed forward. So
Right.
I would,
Right.
I don't get too caught up on getting the dollar as much as I
Yeah.
do the benefit of it. Like, am I having fun? Is this a healthy use of my time? Am I enjoying this? That's currency too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the one on the right, that was the Olmsted thing in Savannah that I did. So in that one, I was focusing on a boat. It's that was not one of my favorite paintings, but I was very nervous trying to figure things out. And when I see that, I'm I'm seeing mainly like I'm just proud that I did it, you know.
Right.
And that I still own that painting, and but it's you got to start. You just got to do it.
Got to put
I
yourself
would
out
say.
there. Yeah. That's so
Mhm.
true. And this is where it all began, so to
Yeah,
speak.
so
Yeah.
I'm downstairs right now in my living room, of course, took it over. But when I first started, and this is kind of a mess. I mean, it might seem like a mess down here, but to me, it's a really workflow zone. That is when I first kind of got started, and I mean, I had been painting maybe for like 6 months at this time, enough to be like, okay, well, I need a dedicated space. So I turned one of the upstairs bedrooms into that, and it was obviously very perfect, neat, and clean. And I had hung up all my oil paint sorted out in a particular way on the wall. I could tell you right now, that didn't last long. There's paint everywhere now. Like, when you're really
This is the
working,
before picture.
this is like my ideal. This is what I was like. I had no idea what I was doing. I had gone and bought all the stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, this is really nice. My little art studio. Well, now, like, I've got, I mean, my paint, I'll show you this. This is how I have it now. This works for me. So this is a basket and with bags of paint in each bag. Like,
Okay,
this is
okay,
blue paint.
okay.
This is green, it's not organized at all because I'm moving so much faster now because I know what I'm doing more. I don't have time for all that neat and orderly stuff. Like,
Right,
because that would really slow me down. For some people, I think that would speed up their process to have a little more order. But if you know your own system, plus, I mean, another thing is I'm not buying like just the nicest stuff. Like, I
right,
know it works for me. And I would say anyone who is getting started painting, don't get hung up on is this cheap material or not. Just buy it and play around with it, and you'll learn what works.
right.
Especially with talking about like your style of brush stroking and all, like certain paint just isn't gonna translate well with that, you know, just stuff like that.
Sometimes you have to experiment, and you're right. Figure out what works best for you. And same thing with brushes and paint and things, especially like with brushes. I've got all kinds of brushes like right over here, and a variety, the different sizes and shapes, of course. But then I've got numerous of each one of those because I might be working with a flat bristle brush, and instead of just having 1 or 2, I've got like 20, different sizes, you know, and I may have 2 or 3 of the same size because I'm not gonna take the time to clean that brush out, and, I'm just gonna put it in my little holding rack and get the next one and keep going. You're right, when you get in that flow, you don't wanna stop, clean something up or whatever, and I've got on the floor over here boxes of, old plastic ice cream buckets that I've thrown paint in,
Oh,
tubes,
yeah.
the blues, the reds, the greens, and I'll just when I put it out on the pallet, I put the cap back on and I toss it into the bucket over there and I keep going. But yeah, it is what it is. But I tell you what, I love your work. You're a fabulous artist. It's hard to believe you've only been painting, like you said, on a regular basis, 6.5 years. You've come such a long way during that time. You've progressed so much. And I want to thank you again for, your time today being on the podcast. We've talked for about an hour and 12 minutes already, but I've got some random questions I'm going to throw at you here.
Okay.
And all right. So, what's your favorite holiday and why?
My favorite holiday. I like Labor Day because it's near my birthday,
Okay.
and I like to get out on the boat, just some fun in the sun type of. I don't like stuffy family tradition stuff because that my life structure just didn't work out that way, and I always just feel kind of like a disappointment, like it's not like perfect. So
Right.
something like Labor Day, that is so up my alley.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I haven't had a Labor Day yet, and all the people I've interviewed, you're the first to say Labor Day. Well, that's good. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Probably to be invisible, even though I could see that turning out very bad. So my
Yeah,
dream
yeah,
house one day, of course, I want the art studio and then the loft above it. And part of that is I want to be in like a very busy kind of city, like, but an older exposed brick and beam. But I want to be able to like sit on my balcony and just kind of listen to the city without, being in the middle of it, but not like, so that
yeah,
would be kind of like alone in a crowd like that. I love that. So I would
yeah.
probably choose invisible so I could just go
Okay,
be
okay.
somewhere.
All right. What's your favorite color?
This is such a nerd answer, but honestly, that yellow ochre that, any painter knows that color. I
Yeah.
really just like that. And I
See?
use that as my
Yeah.
base, like prime color a lot.
Okay.
I'm just very, that's kind of like where I start is yellow ochre always.
Okay. Okay. My last question, you've kind of hit on this already, and the question was, well, is to describe your dream art studio. And you've kind of elaborated or uh, talked a little bit about that already. Is there anything else you would want in that particular dream studio? So you would have a loft upstairs where you kind of live, and then downstairs are your studio slash gallery kind of thing. Uh, I'm sure it would have a lot of light, I would think.
Yeah,
Lot of
good
lot of
lighting.
storage space, yeah,
Lots
yeah.
of, exposed brick and beam. I want to be very aesthetically pleasing. And I would, I want to have easels set up all around, and it'd be a living gallery or a
Mhm,
living studio. So like
mhm.
everything that's in there would be in the works. Um, and I have this vision of like, there being comfortable places to kind of sit and lounge in the middle. I welcome anyone just to come in and watch. It would be a very ambiance
Inviting,
focused.
yeah, warm,
Yeah.
inviting environment, yeah, to come in and
Yeah.
sit and watch and chat and have a beverage or whatever, or a cup of coffee or whatever, or sit and
Right.
chat, listen to some music, and watch you paint. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just to be practical, I'm a very practical person, but I have had this thought, especially with the oil paint, how expensive it can be. Like, a certain day being blue day or whatever. And so I would put out a good bit of blue paint. I would always start probably darkest to lightest in the
Right,
order. But let's just say I have 10 paintings going. I'm going to go around and add that blue everywhere it needs to go, which would create a uniform look overall on my work. It would save painting. I'm not putting out a bunch of colors I end up not using.
right, right,
And
right.
it could be kind of fun, like the spirit of the day. Like I try to, I mean, every day, this is something I say, but every day may not be good, but there is good in every day. So trying to think about how I can wake up and craft my day to be enjoyable and the most fun, that
Mhm,
would be part of it. Like, okay, well,
mhm.
this is blue day, so I'm just looking for blue everywhere,
Right,
inspiration. So
right.
that would be, I think, part of it being a living gallery. I don't know,
Gotcha. Yeah,
but
I
I could
love
see
it.
it
Yeah,
happening.
that's great. Yeah. So when you make it happen, I do want to keep in touch with you and get you back on down the road to say, let's catch up. What's going on? What
Yeah,
new
for
paintings
sure.
do you have? So you can share that with everybody. But I'll say this, and just in closing, I want to thank you again so much for being on the podcast. And we kind of communicated a little bit there through Facebook, and we finally made it happen, which is great. And I just encourage folks to go out and subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up if you're out on YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, please, follow us, become our friend, etc. I'm going to include Eloise's contact information, email, Facebook, Instagram, page information so you can reach out to her. Hopefully, you saw something here today that you might be interested in purchasing or having her do a commission for you. So, she does commissions and live events and things like that. So, please, we're here to promote our artists in the Middle Georgia area, to have them share their stories, but also promote them as artists and promote their work. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye now. Thanks, Eloise.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you. Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. We really appreciate our audience and would love to hear about other artist stories you'd like for us to share. Please email us or leave a comment. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Please like and subscribe.